As I read that, and it certainly wasn't the first time that occurred to me, but just now, even as I read it, knowing I was about to say what I'm about to say, it hit me afresh. He has, you have, the Almighty. All of those things that focus the whole of her attention upon God, her Savior. Secondly, I'd like us to notice in the spirit of the praise how she remembers or is mindful in speaking of herself. What adjective or name or phrase does she use to describe herself?
Lowly handmaiden.
You can literally translate that servant.
Mm-hmm.
Servant. I am your servant, Lord. Do with me according to thy will.
Amen.
Take me, use me, do whatever it is that your precious, good, and right will would dictate in my life. For I serve you. So very often, and I don't want to play down the aspect that of our prayer and our praise life that God desires us to feel a sense of nearness unto Him and the respect that we can bring Him our concerns, that we can bring unto Him the burdens of our heart. But it's so very often, and I'm speaking from a very personal standpoint, I'm not pointing any fingers here. It can so very often turn one-sided, can it not? Here, Sarah, can I pick on you a moment? Ask me how I am.
How are you, Brother Hugh?
Oh, my Lord, Sarah. My heavens, you just wouldn't believe. My knees are giving me a fit, my throat is sore, my eyes are watering, my ears hurt. And Sarah, and furthermore, my shoulders are absolutely shot, and I think my ticker's going with them. See you later.
But other than that,
That's about what some of our prayer lives amount to, brothers and sisters. Give me, or here's what's wrong with me, would you please fix it? But very little to do with Jehovah God. His mercies and His goodness and His love and His grace. The way He has overseen and overshadowed and protected us in days past. The promises that He has made in delivering us forever.
Well, the promise of draw nigh to me and I will draw nigh to you.
Amen. And so, brothers and sisters, I just wanted to point those couple of things out in the respect of Mary and her approach to the Lord. If we all had it in our view to be that lofty in our praise, what we would find is that our estimation of Him increases, and as John the Baptist rightly said, He must increase and I must decrease. Cannot you see that that's actively happening in Mary's life right here? Her God here is a mighty big God, brothers and sisters, and Mary is a mighty small Mary. That just is, it shouts that, does it not? It shouts the fact that I am your humble servant, praising you in this thing that you are doing in me. Now, I want us to notice something else. Before we get there, there's another lady in the Scriptures, another sister of times past. I would say her hymn of praise, it rivals Mary's, and some even say that Mary's is modeled on it. I don't particularly at all believe that. But they're almost equally as magnificent and beautiful. Come back with me to 1 Samuel.
Hannah.
Who said that?
I said that. Yes.
1 Samuel, brothers and sisters, this precious woman, Hannah, has been barren, has been able to bear her husband Elkanah no children. Furthermore, she had a woman who was Elkanah's other wife, Peninnah. And Peninnah bore children to Elkanah. And she lorded it over Hannah. And year after year, Hannah's heart was heavy, and her soul greatly grieved. She was vexed in her soul, you could say, over why it was that the Lord had not blessed her with the blessing of children. Verse 9 of chapter 1. Of 1 Samuel, chapter 1, verse 9. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord and wept sore. Brothers and sisters, understand something. To any couple, I think, even in our own day, that desire children. My wife and I have friends that are anticipating the birth of their second son. They adopted a little boy when we got Canaan. They're about the exact same age almost. Stacy and Kelly, Anita, is who I'm speaking of. But if ever two people tried to have a child before they adopted, those two did. That woman put herself through 4 miscarriages. And literally she got to the place where you couldn't mention the word baby around her. And all of her friends, you know, she's my baby sister's age. She's Becky's age. And all of her friends are having them left and right. And she's getting shower invitations and so forth and so on, because the world around you still goes on. You know, everybody's still doing their thing. And she wanted to be happy for them, and she was happy for them. But she was without a doubt one of the most wounded women in her heart I've ever known, until God gave them the blessing of adoption, and they adopted little Dixon. Little Dixon's 10 going, he's a hair older than Canaan. He may be 11 already. But now that little Dixon is 11, she is 28 weeks pregnant with her own. But in Hannah's day, I think that grief is multiplied. Because in that culture, they had a firm reliance and an understanding and a fixation almost, if you will, that children are a heritage of the Lord. And furthermore, I think that there was an implicit, at least an implied understanding running through the court of childbirth with the people of the Jewish nation particularly. Is this the one? Is this the one that we've longed for? Is this the one? I believe firmly that Adam and Eve thought that when Seth was born even. I absolutely believe that they thought that might be the one that, I can't necessarily prove that. But Brother Dean, I think it's a reasonable postulation anyway.
I think they still believe that today, don't they?
Well, in some respect, I suppose so, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
But Hannah was, to say the very least, a sorely vexed woman. Heartbroken, you might say. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, verse 11, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life. And there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart. Only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, how long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. Hannah answered and said, no, my Lord. I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul from before the Lord. To make a long story short, in this section of the reading, we're going to skip a few verses. God hears Hannah's cry. And God opens her womb. And she bears a son. And she declares that she is going to hold him until weaning, until he is weaned, and that then she is going to take him to the temple to be the Lord's. To Shiloh, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And in chapter 2, we find her words of praise. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoices in the Lord. Mine horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over mine enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation. There is none holy as the Lord. For there is none beside thee, neither is there any rock like unto our God. Talk no more so exceedingly proudly. Let not arrogancy come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired out themselves for bread, and they that were hungry ceased. So that the barren hath borne 7, and she that hath many children is waxed feeble. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes, and to make them inherit the throne of glory. I'm going to stop reading there for time's sake. But brothers and sisters, in that reading,